Hi everyone, I am Aburengwi. Welcome to Mining 901. For about 20 years, I've worked in the mining industry covering different commodities from gold to coal, manganese to phosphate and platinum. This channel is about understanding how businesses really work, specifically the business of mining. We look at the wins, the failures, and most importantly, what we can learn from them as business leaders. Today, we're diving deeper into the Anglo-American world, one of the world's oldest and most powerful mining companies. From its controversial beginnings in South Africa to becoming a global empire, this is really a story about vision, power, and the hard lessons of building a business that lasts over a century. Here's something that maybe may surprise some of you. Anglo American once controlled more than half, and I mean more than half of all private industry in South Africa. Just think about that for a second. One company dominating an entire country's economy for decades. Today, they're making a $69 billion bet that could reshape the global mining industry. So, how did a company founded by a German immigrant in 1917 become one of the most influential businesses on earth? And what can we learn from their journey? So, let's go to the beginning. Our story begins in 1917, right in the middle of World War One. Ernest Oppenheimer, a German Jewish immigrant who started as a diamond broker in London, had one big vision. He saw opportunity in South Africa's gold fields when others saw only risk and war. With about £1 million in the pocket in startup capital, half from the American investors like JP Morgan, half from the British and South African sources, Oppenheimer founded the Anglo American Corporation on September 25, 1917. Yes, what made Oppenheimer brilliant, depending on who you ask, he didn't just dig for gold. He bought shares in other mining companies. He gradually started building control over entire regions. By 1918, Anglo controlled 4 of the 11 major mining companies on the Far East Rand, some of the richest gold fields in the world. But Oppenheimer's masterstroke only came much later in about 1929 during the Great Depression. So when everyone else was panicking, he saw opportunity. He bought majority control of De Beers, Cecil Rhodes's Diamond Empire, and became chairman. Suddenly, Anglo-American did not just mine gold, they controlled the world's diamond supply. The expansion continued systematically, and by 1928, they had moved into Zambia's copper belt. In about 1945, they entered coal. The 1950s brought vanadium, and later came platinum. Each move was calculated, it was strategic, and it turned out to be hugely profitable. But maybe here's the uncomfortable truth that we can't ignore. Anglo-American built the empire during apartheid. The company used cheap black labor, paid starvation wages, and actively supported the racist system that kept wages low and profits high. So when black workers struck at the Nkana mine in Zambia in about 1940, 13 were killed by the police. This was not just about mining, it was about power and exploitation. So fast forward to about 1970. Anglo by that time owned about 5 of the biggest mining houses in South Africa, and they had major stakes in 5 of the top 10 manufacturers. They controlled 8 of the country's 10 largest companies by market value. So when apartheid finally ended in 1994, Anglo controlled more than half of all private industry in South Africa. Wow. So maybe let's go through a few business lessons. Yes, the story is not done, but there's a business lesson here to be extracted. Vision and capital can build empires, but how you build them matters. Oppenheimer saw opportunities others missed, but the foundation was built on exploitation that will haunt the company for decades. Today, Anglo American looks dramatically different from that Oppenheimer empire. In 1999, facing international pressure and changing times, they decided to relocate offices to London from Johannesburg, where they'd been for a long, long time. The symbolism of that move was quite clear. They were now becoming a global company, not just a South African one. But let's maybe talk a bit about numbers. And I'll be precise, or at least I'll try my best to be precise. In the first half of 2025, Anglo American posted underlying EBITDA of exactly 3 billion USD from continuing operations, down from about 3.7 billion the year before. They made an underlying operating profit of 1.7 billion, but after restructuring costs and the write downs, they actually, in fact, lost about 1.9 billion, sort of give or take. The dividend was also slashed by a massive 83% from 42 cents per share to just 7 cents. So why the massive losses? The thing is, Anglo right now is in the middle of a complete transformation. In May of 2025, they completed the spin-off of their platinum business, now called Valterra Platinum. By September, they announced they sold their remaining 19.9% stake as well. But here's the game-changing news this month, and sort of part of what prompted me to want to make this video. Anglo announced that they're merging with Canadian mining giant Teck Resources in a $69 billion merger, depending on who you ask. So say anywhere from $53 to $69 billion, give or take, in what is being called a merger of equals. The new company called Anglo Teck will be headquartered in Vancouver, but they will keep their offices in London as well as Johannesburg. In terms of strategy, it is interesting to unpack a few things. So let's look at what makes this deal strategically brilliant. Right now, copper is the metal of the future. Everything from electric cars to solar panels to data centers needs massive amounts of copper. Global demand is expected to grow about 70% by 2040. So by combining the Chilean copper mines, they can share infrastructure and save about, we are told, $100 million per year. That's a huge saving. The leadership structure shows they're also very serious about global reach. The current Anglo CEO, Duncan Wanbell, will lead the combined company. Jonathan Price from Teck becomes the deputy CEO. That should really be interesting to watch how it unfolds. The board will be chaired by Sheila Murray. So good luck to the team. But I do want to come back to a few practical lessons. It is important to recognize that sometimes you do need to break apart to build something bigger. Anglo sold their parts to buy their future, in a manner of speaking, betting everything on the metals that tomorrow's world will need the most. So maybe diving a bit deeper into the strategy as well as the future prospects of this combined entity, assuming, of course, that they get all the approvals that are needed. Anglo's strategy is simple in concept, but huge or massive in execution. To become the world's go-to supplier of metals that power the clean energy revolution is a huge undertaking. The tech merger is not just about getting bigger, it's about getting smarter. Just look at how their copper operations, instead of just owning mines scattered around the world, they'll have a cluster of world-class assets in Chile that can hopefully work together. It's industrial efficiency on a massive scale. On the bullish side, yeah, a few things that maybe can potentially go right. Copper prices may continue to stay high or go even higher as electric vehicles adoption accelerates globally. Anglotech may become the world's most profitable copper company by 2030. Their integrated Chilean operations may become the model for how modern mining should work. Western governments may favor them for strategic mineral supply deals, especially as geopolitical tensions around a supply chain intensifies. But as much as we look at the bull side, it is important to sort of paint a picture on the bear side. So here are a few things that could potentially go seriously wrong. The merger faces 12 to 18 months of regulatory scrutiny across multiple continents. During that time, market conditions could shift dramatically. Copper prices could fall if economic growth slows, or if recycling technology improves faster than expected. Cultural integration between Anglo and Teck could prove harder than expected. I spoke earlier about the whole CEO and deputy CEO issue. Mining company mergers notoriously have a history of a mixed track record, particularly when it comes to value creation. There's also the persistent legacy issue. Despite moving headquarters to London and changing leadership multiple times, Anglo still faces ongoing criticism over their apartheid era history. The competitive landscape is absolutely brutal. HP tried to buy Anglo for about $53 billion just last year. and they might try again, especially if the tech major faces delays. In an industry where projects take a decade to develop and cost billions, being second is actually not good enough. But let's think about another strategy lesson from what we've shared so far. In business, timing is everything. Anglo is betting that the shift to clean energy will create massive demand for their metals. If they are right and they execute well, this measure creates a copper empire. If they're wrong, they've just created a very, very expensive mistake. So here are the key lessons for any aspiring business leader. First, vision beats timing, but barely. Oppenheimer saw opportunities in South African gold when others saw only risk. But he has also built his empire on a foundation of exploitation that took decades to address and still today owns the company. Second, diversification is survival in volatile industries. Anglo did not just mine one metal, they built a portfolio that could weather commodity cycles. When gold struggled, diamonds kept them alive. When diamonds declined, copper provided the growth engine. The third thing to consider with this story is that geography is destiny in global business. Moving from Johannesburg to London was not just about prestige, it was about access to capital, access to talent, and markets that South Africa could not provide at the time. The fourth bit is sometimes destruction can create value. Breaking up their empire by selling platinum and other non-core assets may have hurt them in the short term, but positioned them for long-term success in the clean energy transition. The last bit is legacy absolutely matters, maybe a bit more than you think. Anglo's apartheid history still influences their reputation today, showing that how you build your business does in fact matter as much as what you build. So here's my question for you. Anglo American is betting their entire future on copper and the clean energy transition through this massive measure. In a world moving towards electric everything, is this the ultimate winning strategy, or are they putting all their eggs in one very expensive basket? I am Abu Rengbi, and you've been watching Mining 901. Until next time, do take care and thank you for tuning in.